Mr. Jeff Foster, what is your opinion about the current assessment rate?
My understanding of the current assessment rate, I probably don't know enough to give you a solid answer as to my feeling about it. What I do know is, I don't know that there's been any long-term planning to know how much that budget should be annually, or has it been a budget made to use up all of the assessed fund, all the monies received? I hope to find that out. To develop a budget that is based on how much income you hope you're going to get, you know what you're going to get, and then you're going to spend it all, isn't a way to run a business. Perhaps, based on the budget, the assessment should be lowered. I'm going to say the unpolitically correct thing. Perhaps the assessment needs to be increased if there's a need, if this dam, for example, or delivery system to the irrigators, if we should find, as Mr. Bailey pointed out, maybe a new way to deliver irrigation water using city infrastructure. I don't know how to judge whether or not this year's assessment rate is correct for infinitum. I don't think it is. I don't know that it was always correct for all the years past. But the system that was established many, many, many years ago has been working. I don't know that the implementation of the budget has been done the best it could.
Mrs. Mary Perry, what is your opinion about the current assessment rate?
The current assessment rate, I believe, has been the same for a number of years. The 2 years that I'm familiar with, there's been no change. Currently, $1 is assessed per $1,000 of evaluation of a home, of which it's delineated that 75 cents goes to irrigation and 25 cents to rehabilitation and recreation. I'm not aware of needs to change those ratios. I know that the budget last year had some carryover. I can't tell you whether there'll be some carryover this year. There's a lot of expenses still to come in.
Mr. Larry Tracy, what is your opinion about the current assessment rate?
Well, as Mary has pointed out, I was aware that we have this dollar per thousand assessed valuation, and also that 25% of it goes to rehabilitation. And so far, it seems to have worked, but it needs to be reviewed. Clearly, I'm not familiar enough to make any definitive statement on that, because I really don't know where, I haven't been able to take the time to see where the money is really coming from, nor have I really had the ability to take the time to see where the money is going. But obviously, it's worked to this point, and so I really have to say, as far as the assessment rate is concerned, I'm not sure how you would change it if you needed to. But at the same time, it's worked in the past, and so at this point, it's just a matter of working through it in the normal budgetary process to get the best results we can for the entire community and for the rehabilitation and enhancement of the lake.
Okay, candidates, we are now into the audience questions. Again, these are 2-minute responses. Some of these questions are for individuals, some of these questions are for maybe 1 or 2, some are for all of you. So I'll begin. First question directed to Mr. Jeff Foster and Mrs. Mary Perry. I'll start with Mr. Jeff Foster. What do you think is the most efficient method for aquatic weed control? Please explain.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I don't have the foggiest idea. Number one, I don't know that that's my responsibility to be the informed on how many gallons per million that you put to kill the weeds. I think that's why you hire experts. That's why you have staff on board. If your staff isn't researching and doing the kind of work for you, then maybe you find different staff. But I don't know that I have to know on January's first meeting whether or not the aquatic weed control is the exact and the best, most efficient way. What I do know is I can listen. I don't have any preconceived ideas that my way of taking care of it in my backyard is the same way to take care of it on Alder Street field. I do know that I can listen to those experts, I can listen to staff, and I can make an independent decision on what I think is best for the district and for the community.
Same question, Mrs. Mary Perry. What do you think is the most efficient method for aquatic weed control? Please explain.
I don't know that I can tell you what is the most efficient way, but I know that there's been some changes, they've been experimenting, and they are seeing some successes. I have done some research on my own. In Hayden Lake in Idaho, they've had a problem similar to ours with the algae growth. They have now implemented a program with what they call floating aquatic weed patches. It's a flotation device that is covered by a netting. In that netting, they have planted non-invasive aquatic plants. The roots of those have gone down and absorbed the phosphorus prior to the algae having an opportunity to grow. They've had good success with that. I would like to see that kind of a situation at least looked into to see if it would work for our lake. I do understand that it would not work for large bodies of water, but we have lots of areas that are not large. Down in Cascade Valley, there's some inlets and all where they're dredging now. That might be a place to use it. The Laguna area. I believe that there's lots of places to look at that type of thing.
Next question is for Mr. David Skog and Mr. Ron Covey. I'll start with Mr. Skog. Describe our current sediment problem and what you would do to solve it.
I'd remove it. It's just how do we remove it? I think there are, the dredge has its place, but I don't think it's the big gun. It would seem that there's a, years ago, talking to Norm Estes said that they used to take the advantage of when the lake was down and people could get a backhoe out and clean up the area around their dock and, make their access more readily available. I think that as a district, we should work with the Bureau or whoever is in shoreline management and try and come up with some sort of a body that can be an advocate for dock owners. And rather than each man for himself, I think we could do a good job of working with sediment that way. The dredge could probably do well in the Laguna areas or in small areas, but it doesn't seem to be cutting it in the big one. I think we need to research that and look at some other ways of doing that have more results and just remove it faster. But it does need to be gone away with. I remember as a kid when John Herzog taught sailing class, you'd tip over a sunfish sailboat right there where the little fountain is, and the mast would barely stick in the mud. That was about 10 feet deep. Today, you could probably walk there all year. And so it is a problem. It does need to be dealt with. We just need to do it in an efficient manner.
Mr. Covey, describe our current sediment problem and what you would do to solve it.
Well, once again, I would agree with David on this, but we need to remove it. The sediment comes in from Crab Creek for the most part. And so there's been a sediment trap established just this side of the Highway 17 and the railroad bridge. And the idea is that will pick up the sediment as it comes in, drops into the bottom of this huge pit, and then the dredge can come back and clean that pit out annually. The dredge is going to be operating every year from now until long past when I'm here. And the reason being is this is an ongoing problem. Currently, we have a program of 9 years. 5 of those years have been permitted. We're going to have to ask for an extension. If you're interested, though, in learning more about the hydraulic dredge and the mechanical approach to dredging, go online and look up MLIRD, because it gives the report from Cardinal Entrex stating that the dredge is by far the better way to go at this point in time. Therefore, I support the direction that the district is currently taking. Thank you.